Okay, guys. So, it was, I'd say it was about somewhere around 5 in the afternoon when they finally wheeled me to the ER. So, I had been, I had been in labor like a little over 24 hours by the time I got to the OR. To the OR for a C-section. And, while I was in the OR, obviously my boyfriend couldn't go in with me. I was by myself. They wheeled me in. They transferred me. I swear they could hear me screaming at the other side of the hospital. I just didn't think I was going to make it. I felt like they were going slow, even though I know they were going as fast as they could. The anesthesiologist was in there, and all of a sudden, you guys, I felt the immense need to push. I felt that baby was going to just slip right out of me on that operating table. And when they were telling me to sit on the edge of the table so that they could do the spinal tap or whatever they gave me to do the C-section, because obviously the epidural didn't work. What they were going to give me, the anesthesiologist told me, was going to completely paralyze me from the waist down. And I told her, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. I feel this baby's going to come out. Please listen to me. I feel it. And they kept insisting, no, he's not. Just trust us. Just let me put this tap on your back, and then all the pain's going to go away. I promise. Just please, you're going to feel so much better. And I said, no. I'm sitting on his head or something. I'm sitting on him. He's going to come out. I need to push. And they're like, well, don't push. And that was the freakiest moment, because you know that they don't feel what you're feeling, and when you feel you need to push and they're telling you no you don't, you're like, yeah, I do, gotta push. This baby's gonna be born, and they're not listening to me. And let's just say I just stopped. I just held this baby in. I literally felt like I was holding him in. And they finally put the medication in, and I was literally hugging a nurse in front of me in tears. And it took about a minute, and I was completely paralyzed from the waist down. I couldn't even move a toe. I tried, which was really frustrating in itself, but I was in so much relief. You have no idea how much relief I was in. And I even stopped shaking. I guess that was an effect of it too. By the time my boyfriend came in, so I heard after the fact, of course, I was already cut open and he could see my insides. He was like, I could see your insides, and blood was gushing out. So that was kind of gross, and I'm kind of upset they started without him, but I had no idea. I thought they were literally just, prepping me, rubbing stuff on my stomach. I didn't feel a thing. Whatsoever. I mean, I could feel something was going on in my stomach, but it was so slight that you could even be confused as to something was happening. So, I thought that I was going to feel this huge tug from what I had heard. I thought I was going to feel a huge tug when they were pulling the baby out. And that's what I was waiting for, because I was literally going unconscious. I was asleep. I was going in and out of sleep. I was fighting it during my cesarean. I couldn't even enjoy it. I couldn't look into my boyfriend's eyes. I couldn't talk to him about what was happening. I mean, and that's all I could think about. I was so upset that this moment was ruined. And finally, when I pretty much passed out, I woke up because my baby was born. He was crying. And I could hear my boyfriend saying, he's here, that's him. And I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I didn't feel one tug. All I heard the doctor say was he's a little green, it's a little green monster or something like that. And then I heard the baby crying, and the incubator where they have the baby and the NICU team. By the way, they had set the NICU team because when my water broke while I was on Pitocin, I don't know if I was on Pitocin. I don't think I was on Pitocin anymore. But when my water broke in the hospital, it had meconium. So they immediately had to call a NICU team. So the NICU team was in a corner where I couldn't even see. I just couldn't see. So I was like, great. I thought they were going to lower the curtain or something so that I could see my son when he came out. Nothing. Of course, my boyfriend could see him. And so after they put the diaper on him and everything, and when they were ready to wheel him out to the NICU, I looked at the nurse. The nurse was telling me, we're going to take him to the NICU and Dad can come with us. And I was like, well, can I see him before he leaves? She's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, please. And she brought him to me, and she put him right next to my face. And there's a picture of it on my Facebook. I'll put the link below. And I got to kiss him, and my boyfriend took a picture of it. But I couldn't really see him. You know, I just couldn't take in what he fully looked like. All I knew was that he had a ton of hair, and I was so happy about that. And so they wheeled him out, and my boyfriend said, you know, I'll stay here with you. I don't want to leave you alone. You know, given the situation and the status that I was in, I can see why he would want to stay with me. I wasn't doing well. My blood pressure was off the roof. So, but I told him, no, I want you to go with our son. I don't want him to go alone. And that took a lot for me, because as the mom, I want to be the first one to hold him. I want to see his reaction the first time he holds his son. This is his first child too. But I kind of have to give all that up. I didn't really have a choice. So after the OR, before they took me out, my OB came to me and he said, you know, there was no way that you were going to deliver this baby vaginally, so I'm glad you decided to have the C-section, because he was stuck. His head was completely inverted into a corner or something where he just wasn't going to get out, and that was all the pressure and all the horrendous pain you were feeling. He said there was so much meconium, and that boy was covered in meconium, and my placenta was just, he said it was ruined. It was really, really worn out, and so they're really glad that they did the induction. And I'm really glad that we did the induction, and that was what, you know, my motherly instinct that I was feeling. Can you imagine? I was 40 weeks, 6 days. If we would have waited, you know, possibly he was going to wait 1 more week at the most if I would have pushed it, I think. So I'm thinking, can you imagine I would have pushed that? I could have lost my child. After they wheeled me out, they transferred me to recovery. And I said, well, when do I get to see my baby? And they're like, well, we need you to do recovery for 2 to 3 hours first. And I wanted to fight that, but I was just going in and out, passing in and out. And I just finally told myself, I can't see my son if I'm passing in and out. Might as well rest this off and just try to get over the fact that my mom and my boyfriend are getting to see him before I am. And so, needless to say, I never was able to fall asleep. Never. I was just wide awake thinking about my son and seeing all the pictures that they were sending me to my phone. And then finally, when they transferred me into a room, I asked the nurse again, because they transferred me like an hour and a half later. I finally asked my nurse, can I go see my son? And she said, well, we need you to get feeling in your legs back so that we can put you in a wheelchair. Until then, we can't take you. So, even though I was starting to feel some feeling, I knew I couldn't stand, so I bit the bullet again and just waited. Then they transferred me to another room because it was closer to the NICU. And that was a nice room, by the way, so that was a good thing. So they transferred me to the other room. I had a much nicer nurse, and she said, you know, why don't you wait another hour to get more feeling back in your legs, and I'll wheel you there. And so I waited, and by the time she came back, you know, I might be off on the hours here because at the end of the day, I didn't get to hold my son until 8 hours after my C-section. So by the time she told me we can go ahead and take you, I knew that I didn't have it in me to even get out of my bed. That's how bad it was. That's how bad I was passing out. I hadn't gotten an ounce of sleep in almost 2 days. So I rested, and I couldn't fall asleep for more than 15-20 minutes at a time. So I finally told my nurse, I want to go see him. I want to go see my son. And I finally went to go hold him. He was immediately, as soon as he was born, he was already making the sucking noises and movements with his mouth. So he was literally born to latch, and he latched like a pro. All the nurses were saying, wow, you know, we don't see this very often, especially not from NICU babies. And bad thing is that I didn't have anything to give him. It wasn't until the day after, it was until later that night or the day after when I started pumping that I had thick colostrum, and they were literally drops. And so I was putting it in syringes and giving it to him when I saw him, and sending it to the NICU so they could give it to him. Excuse me. And I'm gonna upload part 3 in a minute.